All right, everyone. Welcome to the show. Tonight we have an old friend of mine, AJ, and goes by Auron. And Auron, I will say it right one of these days, and I'm going to bring him live. And there he is. This is AJ, everyone. All right, so AJ's an old friend of mine and reached out, which is something I'm really bad at. Like, we've had this conversation before among other friends of mine that, like, I'm not the guy who knows how to keep a relationship like healthy and maintained. So it takes other people around me being willing to do some of that work now and then, or I forget. And luckily, AJ reached out to just kind of say hi and all that the other day, and I was like, AJ. So AJ is in a part of kind of the scene, that I could have gotten into, I guess, a long time ago, as I was around so many people who were in it, but I didn't head down that path. AJ has been going to cons, randomly working at cons, and doing the cosplay stuff for over 20 years now. 17 years now, somewhere around there, yeah, wow. That's, well, there you go. All the way back to the beginning. And you'll see he's wearing his PAX Enforcer shirt. So if anyone's ever pulled you out of line and, thrown you to the ground and beaten you, it wasn't him. He's not that kind of guy. Not. So, yeah, right? So now I want to show people some of your skills here. So for everyone watching, yes, his audio is on, so you should be able to hear him. Say something.
Hello?
Yep, you're on. But anyways, there we go. So thanks, background Steve. So this right here is AJ in character at a con. I don't think AJ actually knows which one I was gonna put up.
I had no idea you were going to do this at all.
But there it is. So describe this to me. What is this?
That was actually, I was talking with another cosplayer, Sheena Doucette. She and her boyfriend, boyfriend at the time, Monty Ohm, were actually at PAX, and she was dressed as Lightning with Cloud's sword, the Lightning from Final Fantasy 13 with the Cloud outfit.
Isn't that really gigantic sword?
Yes, that's Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy 7
Yes.
sword. And that was actually that picture was actually a request by Monty Ohm. He wanted to see me with both because he loved Auron, so he wanted to see me with both swords.
Nice. So that's the kind of costuming work that you do. Like you put all that together, right?
I do not, unfortunately, make any of it because that is not a skill set I have.
Who has that here? Who like made all that to fit you and everything?
That one was actually an eBay one.
Really?
I have
that
some
level
newer
of work for the cons is up on eBay.
The sword was not. The sword was actually a custom job I got from a friend of mine who doesn't make them for anybody anymore.
Aww.
I got like one of his last blades.
That feels bad to me for some reason. Like that, people who do that type of work usually get into it because they enjoy it. Like,
And his sword is phenomenal. It still survived. Like I got it probably about 70 years ago, and I still use it. Hell, at one point it took a full hit from a wooden boken on stage, and it had a dent like this big in it. It's about it.
That's
and
insane.
It weighs next to nothing.
So we met
Oh,
almost 12 years ago.
I have no idea. That whole time frame just kind of blends at this point.
A blur. Yeah, so we met through a cult, which sounds funny to say that way. But I met this man at a protest where we were fighting against evil. And the evil was the cult, of course. And, we started hanging out at that point, and you definitely were around for most of the fun we had. And I don't know, it was interesting to me, the groups of people that kind of merged together there, because you had the kind of hackerish types from the Chans, you had the more cosplay con types from those same kind of communities, but there were all these different types, and a lot of times online they didn't really intermix that much. Like they kind of kept to their own sections of even the websites they were on, and then we all got together and everything was just kind of cool.
Well, at the end of the day, we were all just a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, right.
It's like different types of nerds, but still just nerds.
It was fun. But yeah, so I saw you last year, I believe was the last time we got to hang out, of course, pandemic being in the way of everything.
The last we saw each other was actually at the Encore. At the opening day, the opening day of the Encore.
That's
we went away for grabbing dinner, and you and Blue were passing by.
Yes. A local casino opened up here in Boston, and they supposedly were going to have an amazing buffet. And,
it was.
And a friend of mine worked there and got us passes to it because I'm too poor to afford this stuff. I don't have money. And I get there thinking that they'll have it managed in a way where I'm going to be able to get in line and go sit at the buffet. To where I find this guy who's already eaten at the buffet telling me that he's been here since fuck o'clock.
We got there probably around noon, probably 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, I showed there up in the evening, thinking I would eat anytime soon. Was not the case. Took a little while to sit down.
You went opening night. That's your own damn fault.
It took like 3 hours for us to get a seat.
That's how long it took us. We put our name in, and then 3 hours later, they're like, "Hey, your table's ready."
The buffet was all right. It was decent. Not enough dessert for me. Needed a little more dessert.
Yes, their dessert offering was quite small. Not like their Encore in Vegas, which is the Win in Vegas, which is much bigger.
Yes. So that was the last time we actually saw each other, a little while ago.
Yep.
And I don't know. One of the things that we have in common is just a love of all of the culture around all of this type of stuff. I never got deep enough into it. Like the last couple times I went to cons, funny enough, were times when you were at them, I think. So, knowing the last time we saw each other at a con was like a decade ago, like 8 years ago, I think. It's been a while since I went and did any of that stuff. Yeah, I should say the kind of cosplay, anime, that kind of a con, or even the video gaming cons. I've been to a lot of the tech cons since then, but it's a very different vibe.
Oh yeah, well, it's basically the difference between more like a fan kind of con and trade shows. You do trade shows more than anything else.
Yeah,
of course the hacker conventions.
Yeah, I'm there to hang out with friends, but also to learn some shit. Like when you go to Black Hat in Vegas, like you pick up some tricks. Like it's fun.
Yeah, I go to anime conventions to be an attention whore all day and then a drunk all night.
I mean, so yeah, that's very similar to the tech conventions, just so you know. Like that's the parties that happen in Vegas are quite amazing. And the stuff that happens down there for the tech cons are just it's absolute insanity. But it's a different type of insanity. Like one of the times at DEF CON we had Junaid Hussain, who people probably don't remember too much, but he was an online hacker, and he ended up deciding during the big rise of ISIS throughout Syria and Iraq to go join up. And when you saw them get to a point where they started really being good at recruiting online and hacking and running massive Twitter botnets and all these other things, that was him. And funny enough, he had been in one of the channels for our non-IRC stuff that you were in. Like you had talked to this guy at least once or twice because you were in that same channel way back when. And at DEF CON, at one of the after parties, while everyone was drunk, an agent joined and joined in the party, like got somehow invited to this private after party. And while there, convinced some people to talk to their old friend, which got that old friend to accidentally click on something and ID his exact location, and US drone blew him up. So, like, that type of shit, like, is crazy. I don't think that's happening at your type of con.
No, not a bit.
Like, it's a little different in ours. Like, we have defense contractors walking around acting like they're us asking, leading questions about, is anyone in our network? without saying it that way.
Yeah, the worst I've seen is when a notorious con creeper decided to swat one of our friends.
Like live at the conference.
Yeah, yeah, at Anime Boston at night. He decided to call the police and say that this person threatened him with a gun.
Well then, so his threat was that someone's walking around Anime Boston with a gun and wielding it.
Yes. Now, this person who he said this about was a con security staffer.
Of course.
Yeah.
So the creeper had been called out for being a creeper and didn't like it.
We've had a crusade against this person for a long time. He's like I said, he's a notorious creeper in the community, unfortunately.
So these cons, we'll get back to that because there's something interesting else to talk about there. But you know, it's just a different world. At your cons, that's more the biggest risk, right? I mean, it's really a lot of creepers show up at those things.
Unfortunately, there are a good amount of predators, because most cons tend to skew younger.
And a lot of the costumes people wear are a bit revealing.
Yes, and so a lot of older people tend to go in and take advantage of these, for lack of a better term, children, who, while they're at this convention, I mean, alcohol flows, and sometimes, unfortunately, some underage people get their hands on it.
Yep. And
I mean, drugs as well, just kind of happens. And yeah, so it's like they tend to take advantage of these underage women who, well, again, kids is probably the best way to put this.
So we're going to talk about a project related to that here in a few minutes, but I want to get more, like, let's go back a little. So, like, you started going to these things in 2003.
Yep, I was in middle school.
In middle school. Okay, so your mom was taking you downtown to Anime Boston.
My older brother and his then girlfriend decided, hey, let's go check out this thing. Nice. And I mean, we were only there for the day. We didn't even buy a badge. The only place we could get into was the artist alley. Okay. So this was before, we were all sneaking into these things. I was a kid. I was like, I didn't know how to do that shit back then.
How old were you?
Let's see, probably about 13.
Come on, you could have done it. You could have gotten in.
I didn't learn that. I didn't learn that stuff until much later than that.
I don't know.
Like I didn't start my social engineering until after that.
I think I'd committed my 4th federal felony by then, so like
that is not at all surprising with you.
So I always 13 feels like this weird age to me because it was one of the first times when I was really kind of about to live on my own too, and so like I think about that age as a different thing than other people,
Oh yeah, no, I lived a very protected life, we'll say.
Fair enough.
My parents protected me from a lot.
Lucky you.
Yeah, so so I was still a kid back then.
Having a childhood sounds like an awesome thing.
But yeah, no, it was the first Anime Boston was just the Park Plaza, tiny little thing.
Yep. Now where is it? It's at the convention center, right? And they
no, it's at the Heinz. It's at the Heinz.
Isn't that the Heinz Convention Center?
Well, there's the Heinz Convention Center. When you say the convention center,
there's the big one on the seaport.
Yeah, where PAX is.
Yeah.
Because the Heinz is only, I mean, Anime Boston draws probably around 25,000 people.
That's pretty large. So,
that's
these
pretty
cons,
good for an anime con, yeah.
What is the deal with these cons? Like, is it just like fans hanging out? Is there a commercial piece to it other than we've got to recoup our costs of having this building? Like, what's the deal? What happens at these cons?
So that is a big difference
for the uninitiated.
Yeah, that is a big difference between something like PAX, which is a for-profit con, and then Anime Boston and most of the anime cons, which are the opposite of for-profit, which I'm just blanking on right now. But basically, so that's most of these anime cons. That's what they do. They just try and make enough money to have the next year.
They don't want to go bankrupt, basically.
Yeah, yeah. They just anything extra is good, but they just want to get to the next year. And yeah, it's mainly just. I mean, all the panels are submitted. Our attendees do it. They do tend to get celebrities, usually some pretty good ones. The basically father of Final Fantasy music, Nobuo Uematsu was there 1 year. And that was a really good one. Yeah. but they get voice actors pretty regularly. Back in the day, they used to have the rave at night, although you couldn't call it a rave because they got quite irate if you did. But yeah, it's all just it's a thing where it's basically by fans for fans.
Fair enough. So, like, I mean, I know, everyone knows about, of course, like, the San Diego Comic-Con, right? Like, everyone knows the big one where, like, even all the Hollywood stars are just kind of, like, walking around the hallways and shit, Everyone knows about that.
Yeah, that's one of the for-profit cons.
That's a big for-profit deal, and they have, like, they reveal TV shows that are coming, and for some reason, ones that have nothing to do with, like, sci-fi or anime or the group in any way, like... I remember them revealing just, like, random rom-com, like, sitcoms and shit, like, at Comic-Con. And I'm like, what is this doing here? What is going on? It was one of the only cons I went to before, like, I met you guys or did any of that stuff. And I was there with a friend who wanted to go. I didn't even, like, mean to, like, be at Comic-Con. It was literally, I have no one to go with. Come with me. It was one of those jobs. But I loved it. It was fun. But it's a very weird environment at the for-profit ones. Like, every corner you turn is some big corporate logo trying to get you. Here at Anime Boston, it was a little different. So I only went to Anime Boston the one time, and that was with a group of Anons. And I don't think I got the proper con-going experience, as we weren't there to have the proper con-going experience. At that point, there was a game online, Gaia Online. I don't know if that's still a thing. I just don't know. But and all the local Anons were not fans of that user base. Let's say that. And so we got a couple boom boxes, like big boom boxes, and loaded up. I'm on a boat, motherfucker, by the Lonely Island, of course. And ran into the Gaia Online panel, ran up onto the stage, jumped up onto the table, the desk they were all sitting at, and started singing I'm on a boat, motherfucker, at the audience to destroy their thing. Security was really slow to get there, wink wink, and then didn't see us leaving the building. Man, I loved Anime Boston's security. They were good guys back then.
They still are. It's still the same guy.
I know. I love that.
That's the thing. I've heard of some stuff with that. He's good. The AB security team is actually one of the better ones from the conventions.
They enjoy fun. We weren't up there like screaming vitriol at them or anything stupid. It was just, we thought, entertaining as hell.
Oh yeah. I can tell you from the type of person who would have a panel like that probably had no idea what to do with you.
No, they were just looking at us like, what's going on? Is this normal? It was like a couple of the devs and like the founder of the thing and the guy who managed their website, like, and I think one of the writers of like the storyline behind the whole game, like, they were all sitting up there and just looking at us like, we don't know what to do. They didn't say anything, they didn't move, like they froze in their seats, like, is this normal?
Listen, anime nerds are a bit on the non-confrontational side.
A little. So you've been going now for 17 years. I'm guessing you've made a lot of friends there. It's turned into actually some work as you work PAX East when it comes here.
Yeah, I've been working PAX East since 2016. So just completed my...
What does that mean? What do you do?
So I work the main theater, which is our biggest theater, about 3,000 people. And our job is mainly to... create the lines, police the lines, a little bit on the
cats.
Yes, that's probably the best way to put it, and answer a lot of people's questions, like for panels that are coming up, for just like the number one question we get is, when can I line up for this?
Right. Which
unfortunately is usually for Markiplier, even though he has thankfully stopped coming, it seems, to PAX.
Yeah. I don't know.
He drew.
Not a fan.
There were a large amount of people who came and like would try and enter the building at like 4 a.m. to make sure they got to meet him.
I mean, I hope it wasn't to say nice things.
Oh no, these were people who were fans of him, and These were people who it was like sub-zero weather that year.
That's insanity.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, fans are fans, man. I've got the things that I'm fans of that maybe I might do something that dumb for. But this, so you get how much time, non-pandemic years, do you get to spend, like doing the con stuff? Like, how are there 10 a year that you deal with? Are
I
there
wish.
two?
No, I do. So I do usually about 4 a year. I do PAX East, PAX Unplugged, Anime Boston, and this little one in New Hampshire, another anime convention.
So, Anime Boston is obvious. Anime related. People show up in cosplay, all to do with the anime characters, video game characters, all that type stuff. PAX, a lot of people might not know about, but PAX I've always found interesting because, like, when they first said we're going to do a conference, having known a lot of, like, conference organizers all the way back to, like, the early 90s with, like, DEF CON and, Dead Agent and all the others who tried to, like, get that together, cons aren't easy to actually manage. They become unwieldy beasts. So there's a website, Penny Arcade, and it's penny-arcade.com, and it's a webcomic. It started out as, I would say, just a webcomic, but I don't really want to kind of... That sounds almost rude, because, like, it's a good webcomic. Like, I've really enjoyed this. I read it every time a new one comes out for 20 years now. I mean, it's been a long time.
It's been a little over 20.
Yeah, it's been a while, and they decided to have a video game con. As for the most part, their entire thing is all about video games. Might be part of the name there with the whole Penny Arcade thing, but they decided to do a con, and the community reaction was, "Oh, this is going to be awesome," and then the rest of us were all like, "Are you sure you think you can handle this?"
Well, the biggest thing is they did it because E3 was when E3 died for a bit.
They were filling a gap.
Yeah. And they also wanted to make it
way better than the other.
Well, the difference is they wanted to make it for the people, not for because E3 at that point had just become bloated with just industry only.
E3 was like you were walking through a bunch of TV commercials, like in real life.
Yeah.
And PAX feels like you're walking around a bunch of fans of video games. Like, when you walk into booths at PAX, you'll walk into, like, indie devs who wrote the game, who are really passionate about the game they wrote. And at E3, you were walking into the marketing director telling you what they were doing for their new commercial. And you were like, no, I want to talk to the dev guy.
Yeah, PAX is very indie friendly.
Yeah. So you work at PAX. PAX is fun. I love what they've done there. They've done all the charity work they've done, all the work to get indie devs, good placement there, and really caring about that stuff. It's been great. Now,
one of the biggest things about that is the Penny Arcade guys. Like they're on top of the world right now. They're huge guys.
Yeah.
But they make sure that us workers feel like important. Like they are like they basically throw us a party after the convention.
Nice.
And they're both there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're both there, and they always have like a speech for us and everything, and they just feel like it really does feel like we're appreciated.
That's important for a staff, for especially that kind of an ephemeral kind of amorphous staff that shows up once or twice a year.
Yeah, and this is like for PAX East, there's about 1,000 enforcers.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I think I remember the Anime Boston I went to, there were like 30 people who were running around in red shirts.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the Goon Squad, which is what they are down at DEF CON, is somewhere near that larger number. But, yeah, that's crazy. So, at these anime-related ones especially, I mean, I'm sure at, PAX they do it too, but at the anime-related ones, like especially like AB and all those, there's a lot of cosplay.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you show up as a character. Do you always show up as that same character, or like every few years do you switch? Like, how does that work out?
Auron is my main one, and I usually will throw in another one for other days, but that's been my main one for a while now. Especially, I actually about a last year. I actually right before the pandemic, really, I actually got it. I got it remade from the ground up from a friend of mine. Like it's made with real stuff, not like cosplay material, which any cosplayer knows what cosplay material is. It's the stuff you buy online. It doesn't feel like good fabric. Like it feels cheap, but it looks good enough.
No, it's shiny for right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and usually holds up decently. But so I actually got it remade from the ground up, and of course, then the pandemic happened.
Of course. So now you have this, and you didn't get to go to a con with it.
It was actually last year because I was able to debut it at PAX a little bit, and then mainly and then wore it all of Anime Boston last year. Which there was no Anime Boston this year, unfortunately.
Yes.
We did get a PAX in just at the last second.
Yeah, right. Like literally, the early one just barely fit in, and maybe shouldn't have. Who knows?
It was the same weekend as the Biogen conference.
Yeah, that's why I say maybe shouldn't have. So for people who don't know, here in Boston, the Biogen conference is where Boston's first outbreak came from, and we were lucky here in Malden because the 3 actual Boston people who got it at that conference all live in Malden and came right home and gave it to everyone here in Malden. So the first big outbreak was in the little town that I'm in New England, and we were on lockdown like 6 weeks before any other city in New England. And like it was like, holy crap, all of a sudden there's no cases in Massachusetts. There's no cases in Massachusetts. There's 10 cases in Malden and nowhere else. Damn it. Like, yeah. So the Biogen conference happened the same weekend as the PAX conference happened. Luckily, there was no crossover.
PAX did really well. The janitorial staff and all the people at PAX, like talking about what to do, is like they were very, very good about following proper procedures the proper procedures we knew of at the time. But it worked.
Well, yeah, because by then, Dr. Fauci was still telling us that masks weren't necessary, that we didn't know if it traveled by air yet, and and that was fine because that was the prevailing science. We just didn't know yet. At a point only, a month later, it was, please, for the love of God, wear masks.
Yeah.
So you said something earlier about, these ones like Anime Boston who basically just want to recover enough money that next year makes sense so they can keep going, right? And here we are with an entire year of dead space, of no cons, of attempts at virtual cons, but a lot of them didn't work out too well. So like, what do you think that did to these? Are there going to be a lot of cons that don't come back?
It really comes down to, like, most of them actually were able to get their money back, like their down payment back from the convention centers.
Okay.
Like,
so
that was the big thing.
You've got to rent those early.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They put down payments sometimes upwards of years in advance, but basically when it came closer to Anime Boston, like Anime Boston, I think they didn't officially cancel it until about a month out. And everybody was saying, like, how could you not cancel it? How could you not cancel it? But in reality, what happened is they couldn't, if they canceled it before like a certain date, then it was, they're choosing to cancel it. And then they wouldn't get their security deposit back.
So there were all kinds of contractual reasons that they waited. Okay.
Yeah.
But that also meant they had a lot more refunds and whatnot to give.
They gave us the choice. They actually gave us a choice, like, do you want a refund or do you want to let it ride for the next year?
Wow. That can become problematic because they'll be sitting on that cash and then use it for expenses and then not recoup it next year when they've got to spend it. I'm hoping they don't do any of that.
The thing is, they didn't have to actually spend anything because the con didn't actually happen, and they got their money back. They got their security deposit back. So then they don't have any expenditures that aren't their normal downtime stuff.
Let's hope they are managed properly.
Anime Boston, I think, is a decently managed one. Yeah, no, here's the thing. With anime cons, it's a crapshoot.
I've just heard rumors of some of those cons, in the management and where the money goes. So, like, letting them sit on a pile of cash for a year sounds like a scary notion in that realm.
So, because I've been going every year, I just decided, screw it. Let them keep it. Let them keep it. I'll have a ticket when it next happens.
let's hope that's 2021, but also
I
it
doubt
might
it.
not be.
I doubt it. They're usually in April.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not happening. Wow. So what do you think that does to a lot of the cons, though, that were really on the edge? Like, I mean, Anime Boston definitely, like, it filled up every year. Like, they
Yeah, they're
weren't
fine.
fearing, not selling enough tickets every year, but there were a lot of cons that were close every year to barely pulling it off. Like, are we going to lose some, or is this fine? Is this just, we took a
I
break
think
for a year?
I think a lot of the smaller ones we might see bailing out, but a lot of the smaller ones also, I mean, they have no cost. They have low costs.
Fair
Like
enough.
like I know of one that people love. I don't know why. It's in like a middle school. It's called
Okay.
Queen City Kamikaze. I went there one year. It's a rinky-dink little thing.
That seems weird.
It was. It felt, especially after going to Anime Boston for so many years, it felt real weird.
Yeah, because they get the nice downtown convention center at the Heinz. Like that.
Yeah,
That's a decent setup.
it's a good venue. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a perfect venue for an anime con. Like a lot of people have been saying, oh, they're big enough. They should move to the BCEC, which A is wrong. They're definitely not that big. The BC, you've been to the BCEC, I'm
Yeah.
sure. It's a massive place.
Yeah, I was there for a few of my friends' book deals when they were done, and they had to do the librarians conference, and all the librarians are walking around trying to pick out which books they want to pick up that are new. And the people who actually wrote the books are sitting there. Like, most people don't even know this happens out there in the world, but there's literally a convention here in Boston where librarians from all over the country, some all over the world, come. And then if you're a brand new author, you can go to this convention and sit there with copies of your book at your table, and as they walk by, try and convince them to come over and maybe sign on for a few to show up for their library. And you can move like thousands of copies of your book at this convention. Like, I think that might have been the last convention I went to, actually, for one of my friends who did an anti-Scientology book.
Wow, rip roaring good time there for that being your last one.
Well, I gotta
Such
say,
a wild convention.
well, I gotta say, when you're actually out there fighting against a cult who puts people on the con floor to fuck with you, it became fun. I was not
That's true.
expecting as much entertainment as I got out of it.
Listen, you didn't put the call out to us, so that means it wasn't that fun.
Well, by the time that we were actually having that kind of fun, like, there was an hour left in the con, they had kind of hidden well. Yeah, no, it was interesting. I wanted to talk about the cosplay stuff, because, for all I understand of that, it's basically just a hobby. You do it because you want to. People show up. There's nothing really monetary about it unless you're one of those people who maybe are like trying to sell your services as I can do this, I guess. How does this work? What is it really just that, or like explain it to me?
There are a few of the professional cosplayers. But yeah, no, it's mainly just like we see something in an anime and it's like, shit, that would be fun to dress as. Or, I mean, the more realistic for a lot of people, that would be hell to dress as, but it'll look cool.
Yes. Well, they might think it'll be fun, and then they get it on, and then they realize, holy crap, this sucks to walk around in.
The lifers know it'll happen beforehand, but we do it anyway. Comfort doesn't have a place in cosplay.
So you mentioned there are professionals. What is that? How does that work? What is that?
Well, we have people like Jessica Negri, is one of the big ones. Stella Chu, Yaya Han.
Are they like paid by the anime like people? Do they run like OnlyFans? Like, I mean, what's the deal here? Like,
I believe most starts on like Patreon and the like. But I know Jessica Negri was actually I want to say paid, but I'm not 100% sure, for Lollipop Chainsaw at PAX to be basically they didn't call them booth babes because booth babes are not allowed.
And that's a bad thing anyways.
Yes. But basically the developers actually kind of, she was their like spokesperson for it.
Like, I don't want to take agency away from women. If someone wants to do that and that's like literally the thing they want to do, don't stop them. But like, just like hiring women for that has always felt very creepy to me. Like,
but at the end of the day, it's modeling. It's just a different form of modeling, especially when you have when it's a character from a show, from a
Yeah.
anime or something,
Yeah, for
then that's
that
fair.
makes complete sense. So she probably just built up a good following online. People knew who she was, and they were like, "Could you please come do that for us?" Okay.
Yeah, yeah, she's a phenomenal cosplayer in general, and just like the problem is people see her and they think, oh, I could do that too. And a lot of people like get their hopes up and like try and monetize their
That's
cosplay.
every hobby I've ever tried to start. I could do that, and then it doesn't look anything like whatever the other person did.
Yeah, so it's like most people do cosplay just for the hell of it, just for fun. And
She
hell,
seems like that
it
kind
ain't a
of
cheap one
person
either.
in line in front of me at Michael's, the craft shop, where I'm there buying things thinking I'm going to get something awesome done. And I'm looking at the person who obviously knew what they were supposed to buy. And I'm just like walking out the door like, yeah, no, this was dumb. I don't know what I'm doing at a store like that. I try, man. I no. None of those types of hobbies have ever worked for me. It turns out I am not good with arts and crafts. Like, this is not my
Yeah,
thing.
I've attempted making props here and there, and I hate the results every time I did.
Oh man. So, one of the things we touched on earlier at cons was the fact that, at the kind I normally end up at, like the tech cons and whatnot, it's a much different threat model, if you will.
Mhm.
You've got everyone from feds to defense contractors walking around these places to foreign governments with, paid agents from their hacker teams walking around interacting. Like, you've got, you don't even notice it usually because everyone just acts normal and acts kind of like, one of the other people at the conference, right? So there's just kind of like this weird mix there. But your threat model is, only talk about certain things with the people you already know and stuff like that. At the cons that you go to and the types that you're at, one of the bigger issues that I've known about for a while through a mutual friend of ours is all the creeps that show up at these things and the people who shouldn't be allowed to go to these things and the people who should be banned from ever showing up at these things.
Gotta love that word should be.
And yeah, and so our mutual friend is Rick. Handle Rick Glass. He's a follower of the channel here. And early on, definitely was an interesting character, and has gotten better with age every year, it seems. So I love Rick. But there's a project, and I don't know what your take on this project is or what your involvement with this project is, actually, but I know you know about the project. So this project is called Project Sauron, and it hasn't, I don't think, officially launched yet, right? It was kind of waiting for cons to become a thing again,
I
if I
believe there is a
understand it
website
correctly.
now. There is a web. They have launched a website now.
So for everyone watching, what I understand of this project, and AJ here can totally correct me as I get everything horribly wrong, but as I understand this project, what they're doing as a group of people who have run security or been on enforcement teams or just generally been actually congoers for a long time, they're building up a database of all the creeps that go to these things with pictures, with stories, with first-hand events, with links to things they've done that might even include up to like the police report of the thing they did, and
If they have a police report, it is usually reported on
so it's
gleefully.
all in this database, and it's going to be a public website to just shame all of these congoing creeps who are there to prey on the children and the teens, and even, I mean, they're not all children. There are a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds there, and
Yeah.
sometimes even 40-year-olds there, but like, these creeps that show up needed to be databased. They needed to exist in a full doxing as strong as possible with enough data to back up the assertions. And so that's what Project Sauron is. And the goal is to share it with all the security teams at the various cons. But now, where do you see this going? What beyond just sharing it with them? What is it going to accomplish? Do you think cons are going to start banning people based on it, or?
The problem is we've been trying to get cons to, again, this is mainly on anime conventions. Like the for-profit cons are very much better on security, stuff like that. But like the anime conventions, because it's like fan run, it's not, they don't want the bad publicity of banning someone. Because with a ban comes complaints, comes people making problems and making a large stink.
Yep.
And even the talk of banning is what leads to stuff like the swatting. Because this guy was somebody who we've been trying to get banned for years. Because he is one that, in particular, goes for underage women and just as somebody that's been a problem. But basically, yeah, so I mean, I can't speak for Rick. Hell, nobody can speak for Rick.
No.
He does enough speaking for himself. But basically, I feel like what the whole purpose of it is to just raise more awareness, make sure people know who the problems are, make sure that conventions know, and hopefully will actually grow a set and do something about it.
So the person that I think you are referring to, as you
I didn't know if you wanted to stay away from that kind of names or anything.
On last Friday's episode, I literally gave out the personal cell phone number of the guy who's organizing all of the marches in DC.
Yeah, I don't know why I'd be surprised that you...
So, like, I mean, let's go. I think you were talking about someone who I even knew before this. Like, he's so well known as this piece of shit. And that would be Terrence Hanlon.
No, Terrence is not the one I was talking about.
But, was I close?
No, the one I'm talking about is a person by the name of Dylan Benosi.
Okay. Well,
or Dylan King online.
Terrence, if you ever see this because like a friend tells you about it or something, you are a piece of shit. So you're talking about Dylan. Is Dylan on the Project Sauron site?
I believe, yeah, almost assuredly. He goes by also, well, we all lovingly refer to him as Toe Sucker and Fishnet Creeper.
Because I see Everett, I see Matthew Toyotome, Forrest Ward, Mean Nguyen, Terrence Hanlon.
I know he's on there. I know Rick was very thrilled to put him on there.
Is he Dr. Bright?
No, he just goes by Dylan King or Dylan Benosi.
I do not see a Dylan Benosi on here. Come on, Rick, get your game on here. Get Dylan up.
It's funny because again, Rick is like he's been one of Rick's main targets on that for a long time.
Let's look. Tier 1, there's a Joseph Allen Sawyer. Yeah, we're gonna need some more data here. We're gonna need people to join in. So one of the things, once I think it's really ready, we need to share this out there to the world and get more people submitting reports. Although I do have, the other question. The other side of this is. There will be people who just don't want someone to show up at the con they're at, and that person's not actually a creeper. How are you guys dealing with that? Do you know how he's working on that? Is it just multiple reports? Does it take like first-hand knowledge?
Receipts help.
Receipts.
It take a lot of receipts help. Yeah, it's like they need to see like something that proves this. They're not going to just throw somebody under the bus just on the account of one person.
So you can't just like screw with your friend and get them, on the list. Like it's going to take a lot of work.
God, I hope not. I've pissed off enough people over the years.
Oh, good time. So if anyone knows of creepers out there who should be looked into and has good first-hand knowledge with receipts, by all means, projectsauron.org, and it has a Contact Us page with Facebook, with Twitter, Discord, Mastodon, Reddit, Patreon, all the works. So have at it on that and help protect some of this. Yeah, I learned a lot at my first Anime Boston as, like, I was approached twice at Anime Boston by people who I'm just not gonna name or in any way describe other than, do you have a room in this hotel?
Oh.
And I don't. What do I need to do to sleep in your room tonight? And I was like, man, if I was a creeper, like, they just must have a field day at this place, because it's almost like there are people there literally throwing themselves at the creepers. And yeah, that is not to victim blame, but I was just walking around normal, not even talking to people, looking for friends, and this happened to me twice. So, like, there must be a lot of creepers who go to these things who are just attracted to that.
There's a lot of people who are inexperienced at life. They're very trusting still. And that leads to, like, I mean, I've seen on different con web Facebook groups, like people looking for rooms, like people looking to room with people, because that's a way that people meet people.
Yeah. I've
Hell,
shared rooms at all kinds of different events.
yeah, I've shared a room with 9 other people before, and I knew like one person in the room, and
Right.
even that was barely new.
Yeah, I just took a pillow and slept in the bathtub in one of the rooms that I was in like that, where there were like 10 of us at a thing out in California.
See, I like the space in between the bed and the wall. Just make
Right.
yourself a little cave.
Yep, yep. Yeah, it's a weird environment there. What haven't we touched on to do with all these cons and whatnot? What have we missed out on? It's your world, not mine, man.
There's, I have a story. I definitely got a fun story
Let's
from.
go.
So, because there are some good cons, there are some bad cons. One of the bad cons, in my opinion, is Kineticon. I've
What
been
is this
there.
one about?
It's another anime convention. It's just it's run by just trash human beings that don't know how to run anything. It's this guy Matt Daigle, and he's
Hi,
the
Matt.
type of person. He's the type of person who, if anybody badmouths the con in any way, says anything negative, he'll put you on blast and throw you out of any group that he's part of.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, but one of my favorite memories from a convention is something I've dubbed the war on nipples.
Okay.
So
People hate Batman?
basically what happened is another cosplayer, a friend of mine, he also was cosplaying from Final Fantasy X, the character named Jekt. Now, this is a shirtless cosplay, and with a giant J tattoo on his chest. This man loved that character so much, he actually had the tattoo on his chest.
Okay.
It was a real tattoo.
That's crazy.
So, the security of the convention center... Oh, yeah, it was fantastic. The security of the convention center was not a fan of it. They said they went up to him and was like, you have to cover up, have to get a shirt on. So we thought, okay, I guess this is like the whole rule, can't show nipples and can't have nipples showing. It's like, okay, that's fine. So we went to the con, like the cosplay HQ they have there, which is the place to go if your cosplay breaks, which it does. And
is it just like a crafting table or something?
It's mainly just some volunteers with all sorts of glue guns, sewing, stuff like that. Anything
Nice.
that you need to fix a cosplay.
A support team.
And basically, yeah. And so we went there and we got some electrical tape. Figure, okay, electrical tape the nipples. Usually that's good enough to go anywhere public. Yeah, they came back to us and they're like, no, absolutely no. You have to wear a shirt. So next we went and grabbed a shirt and we just rolled it up so it was only covering his nipples. Again, they didn't like that either.
What the?
Yeah.
Did you point to any of the other people there whose entire midriffs were wide open because
there were
had
people
to be hundreds?
There were people wearing much less all around us. So at this point, now we're pissed and now we're spiteful. So we went back to Con HQ, or Cosplay HQ, and they were annoyed by it too. So what we did was they made him, they took some foam and made little covers, and then basically they put tape and made like a bikini top. So
and then he could point at people and say, but that's what they're wearing.
Exactly, covering the same amount. So we went back. The security was pissed. This guy comes, the head of security comes at this point, rolling up on a Segway. and he's just losing his mind. And I'm just sitting there because my friend, he didn't know what to do with that, didn't know how to handle that. We've dealt with that shit plenty of times. So I'm just sitting there. I'm just sitting there, the guy. I'm like, he's like, you got to cover up. I'm like, no. And then he's like, cover up or I'm throwing you out. And I'm like, no, because at this point, that's just gender inequality. Like now it's just pure gender discrimination, because why can't this man show off the same amount of skin as half these women here? The guy's like, no, it's not. And then rolls away.
Yeah.
So
he didn't want to have the rest of that fight.
So at that point we got spiteful. Now, me and four or five other of my friends all went over there and we all got it done.
Nice.
We all got that. We all got the bras made for us. And then we walked around that place like we owned the place.
Which is the right move. I mean, just shove it in their faces.
Oh yeah, no, we made stripper forms of our cosplay. And like half of us had giant swords, so we were sitting there just like anytime somebody asked for our pictures, we were like posing like their stripper poles.
Nice.
And we actually had a security guard say to us, "We are trying everything in our power to have you thrown out." I'm like, "Cool, you won't though." And then we just had a blast that day.
That is a lot of fun. I was surprised at the amount of stuff I've seen go on at these cons where they threaten to throw you out, but then you don't get thrown out, you know?
That's what we were saying before. They don't like doing that.
No.
For good or ill.
Yeah, I mean, also, I would think that that's just bad for the community in general if they start doing stuff like that. So there might be bosses around who maybe organize these things who don't want to see that shit happening.
Usually the only time that somebody gets taken out of the convention is when they're taken out on a stretcher. Which happens once every con.
That sounds like a completely different kind of conference to me. Oh my god, that sounds like a lot of fun. So, the go forward from here is that you think cons are generally going to return. And
I think they'll bounce back.
And they'll bounce back. You're not fearful. I mean, I think cons like obviously Comic-Con, which just has massive industry support, and PAX, which now has massive video game industry support, almost out of spite, like the industry was happier with the E3 model than the PAX model, where they're second class now. But they also know the value of being at PAX. Like you can't not be at PAX and have an awesome show. Like at E3 you just had to have a decent setup and have your marketing people there. At PAX you better win over the crowd. But like those types of cons, like, they'll survive. Those big for-profit cons, they're gonna make it. But like all these little cons, you actually think they're coming back.
It comes down to, like I said, like when there is no con, there's also no operating cost. So it's like they have the money from the previous year when it actually worked, like when they're actually able to gain money. Yeah, which a website doesn't cost anything nowadays.
Yeah. Okay. So Doxy in the chat says something interesting, that Doxy is ready to throw her money at the next con once it's time. So I would guess, knowing, a lot of my friends that are into these cons, that's probably a prevailing sentiment. Like,
oh yeah,
for any of the doomsayers saying, oh, all the conventions are in reality, the fan bases are going to, like, rally here.
The only thing that'll change is for probably like the next year, a lot of cosplays are gonna be characters that include masks.
There are enough characters for that.
There's plenty.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. It's because it's a Japanese creation, and most of the cosplay are going to be from Japan. It's like Japan is a nation that's had masks for decades before we
they were
even
wearing
thought
masks
about
long
it.
Before this.
Yeah.
There were when I was there in the 90s, there were people walking around in masks already. Like, it's just a thing, it's normalized.
Yeah, so it's like that means there have been plenty of anime characters over the years that have worn masks for one reason or another as well. It's just part of their culture.
So when you go right now as Auron.
Yeah.
You said you had another character. What was that?
Let's see. Well, I mean, it's different every year. It's like I usually try and do just one different one, but cost, because this ain't cheap.
Right.
But like the last year, I did a character from My Hero Academia. And my next one I'm planning is actually a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure one.
Cool. Interesting. So this is a question I always wonder. Is there one character who, to put it lightly, you see too damn much of, and people should stop showing up as that character?
I wouldn't say a character. I would say there are certain series that happens. Which
okay.
there's trends. It always happens that way. There's always going to be like the new hotness. For a while, as I told you off camera, there was Hatalia, which that one just tended to annoy everyone, especially because they had giant flags they would keep with them.
Yeah. So those would just be buffeting in people's faces behind them.
Oh yeah,
we all remember that, walking around with like the Anon flags and whatnot. Just how annoying that could get in a group.
To be fair, with the Anon flags, you do it on purpose, though.
Oh yeah, I mean that is very, very on point.
Yeah. But like the big thing is like especially at like PAX, League of Legends cosplays. There's
Yeah.
an overabundance of them. Like it's at a point where it's like if I don't recognize something, I'm like, it's probably a League cosplay.
Probably illegal.
There's
Okay,
a
that makes
million skins for each character.
yeah. So if it was this year and this year had gone off like all other things, what would you have expected to see too much of? Is it
I don't
Fortnite?
know. Nah, Fortnite doesn't have enough like
What would it be?
characterization. Probably it would probably still be League.
It's just fuck those guys. All right,
I mean, hell, Riot at PAX was awful to deal. It was awful, like as an attendee, they
Yeah.
were awful because they would always just like they had a lot of free stuff that they like to
Well, that's not a
throw out of
bad
their
thing.
booths. It is when it's like 50 people deep all around the entire booth.
It's the whole yelling fire kind of thing. Like it was just too
Exactly.
much. There were too many people trying to like get to the one spot.
Yeah. Now that's just me as an attendee. It was just awful. But they did do one good thing because they actually for a couple of years had a cosplay hospitality room. And it was like I was saying before, where it's just like it's a room where they have all the things you need to fix any cosplay problems, but they also had like coffee and snacks too,
That's
like coffee and
awesome.
water and snacks. Yeah, that was amazing as a cosplayer.
So yeah, so the Penny Arcade people who do the pack stuff are just, I mean, I gotta say, I'm a big fan of what they do. So beyond just like having the webcomic and having that somehow be successful enough to end up with like bi-coastal freaking cons and everything else, they also have their Child's Play charity. And if you think all the kids in hospitals and whatnot should be playing video games, go check out that charity because that's like one of the things they help accomplish.
You're
It's pretty cool stuff what they do.
you're actually not even mentioning the best part of the Child's Play charity.
Which
It was
is
a charity. It was a charity made out of spite.
yes. Yeah, you want to explain it?
Yeah, it was basically Jack Thompson, blast from the past name there,
Fuck that.
was all talking about how nothing good comes from video games. Nothing good comes from any video gamers. And Gabe and Tycho of Penny Arcade took offense to that.
Yep.
They're
Like,
like,
oh yeah?
well, yeah, let's do something good with it then. And that's how they made Child's Play. I'm sure
Yeah.
there was a lot more to it than that, but that was the main part of it.
If you ever want to read up about a real douchebag who thought, video game violence and blah, 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 and everything else wrong with video games that you could imagine someone would think, that was him. And this charity was made in spite of that man. So he did accomplish one good thing in that this charity is awesome, and I don't think it would have existed without that. I mean, I think they end up doing something charitable with just the success they've had, but like, yeah, no, that was great.
And now look, they come up with millions of dollars every year for children in hospitals.
Yeah. And they deliver all, and plus they with PAX and everything else, they've made such good friends with all the video game companies that they get to deliver all kinds of cool stuff to them. That I know they did one thing that was like an exclusive thing for the children's hospitals with Sony a couple years ago. Like they just get to do all kinds of cool stuff, and that's really neat. I like that. I like that PAX happened and that they got to go and do all of that.
Yeah, I actually encourage my parents every year, like when at Christmas time they like to donate to certain charities, and I always encourage them with Child's Play. And you can just basically go on, like you can go onto their Amazon page and just directly say like, so they're asking for like they need this many copies of Madden
Yep.
or something like that, and so you can just go in and just buy it for them, and it'll just ship it straight to the hospital.
Yeah, and that's just cool. That's just
Yeah.
neat stuff. So yeah, so I would recommend everyone go and check out Project Sauron. Although the website's a little thin right now, but that's
Yeah.
because it kind of was meant to launch this year as con season started, and then we had no con season. So expect as the cons start to kind of get going, that Project Sauron definitely takes off and does a lot more good out there. Also, if you're going to these things and you're recognizing these people as creepers, repeatedly, gather the evidence and hand it in. So Project Sauron has it. It's run by some people that I really trust to try and do this the right way. I'm hoping it does a lot of good out there. So I'm really glad we got to talk about that one because I was wondering how that was doing during this, but it looks like it's at least moved forward to the point where the website's up. They've got some people listed. They've got some stories about these assholes. I would say anyone out there who goes and looks at Project Sauron and sees these names and knows these people and has more docs on them to submit those as well. Like, let's really flesh out these profiles a little more.
Definitely always want any information can be given.
Indeed. So important as always. I guess every episode of mine is going to contain a doxing component. So so there we go. I guess that's just how we do. I do remove when we actually put someone's real hard docs like in the show before I put it up on YouTube, because they've got some stupid rules about like demonetizing you and shit for that. But live on Twitch, they don't seem to care too terribly much. As long as you don't clip the actual thing, they'll kill that clip for some reason. It's kind of weird how it works over here. Yeah, so it's been a long time since we've just kind of gotten to talk and hang out and everything. So I've enjoyed this, but I gotta ask, is there anything that you think we've missed? Like, we've talked about the cons, we've talked about the cosplay stuff, we've talked about PAX, we've talked about Child's Play, like just out of nowhere. We've talked about Project Sauron. Like, what haven't we talked about? Anything?
I don't know. Honestly, I mean, there's so much happens at conventions. It's a topic that can be talked about forever, especially through 17 years of like I said, starting as a child, basically.
Yeah.
Now I'm 33 years old. It's like,
make me feel old the way you say that.
Well, I'm old, so you're ancient.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it. I really do. Yeah. Like, I'm aged well beyond my years. I don't know, falling out of balconies, getting thrown from the car I was driving, things like that have really beat me up a little. I'm feeling it lately. I think I needed this year of pandemic almost to rest at home. I just, wish it didn't come along with, Trump killing 300,000 people.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible human being that he is. I've never had much in the way of political conversations with you.
Yes, because for the longest time I was not political, and then when I got political, you all laughed at me.
Yeah, that wasn't at you. That was more with you, because I remember those moments. You were one of the few people around our crew who didn't end up getting political that we still talk to.
Yeah.
Like, not because we just stopped talking to people because they weren't coming along for the ride, just you were one of the few who also stuck it out as we all got really loud and opinionated.
There's the thing. I enjoyed hanging out with you guys. It was just when it comes down to it, it's like I was just having a fun time with you, like with all the anon.
Yeah, and that was really the way we met through the protests against Scientology, Project Chanology, and you showed up all costumed up to those early ones, I had
my Green Lantern hoodie.
Yep.
I wouldn't say costumed up.
Well, I mean, compared to me, and just like a nondescript blue prison jacket, I still have that somewhere. That was the jacket I was handed as I was walking out the door of prison when I was released. Because they give you a coat when it's winter and they release you. Like, it's a brand new coat, like,
That's
in a
nice
bag and everything. Like, you're gonna freeze if you leave without this, and we're not supposed to kill you, so... and they don't really care if there's someone outside in a car or not. They're just expecting you to leave. So here's a coat. Yeah, that was weird. So that was actually, the first few times you met me, I was in my prison jacket.
It's a long time ago.
That was 12 years ago. Wow. That was, we had a lot of fun back then, though, and I think we accomplished a lot of good stuff. But there was a lot of people in a lot of cool costume at those things, too, though. Like, we had the Pope show up to a bunch of them. That was fun. The Pope is now a politician. The person behind that wonderful costume has been elected to office.
Wow.
So while you definitely took a while to come around to even attempting to get political with any of us, a surprising amount of people from that time period ended up literally running for office or going into journalism to talk politics that way, or any of these real things along those lines. And I wouldn't say I laughed at you for your political opinions. We just differed a lot in terms of where we thought certain lines were.
The last time I left your house, you were literally laughing at me when I said I was going to vote for Tulsi.
Well, yes, but she's a moderate Republican run by Russia, so, like, it's hard when people say that. Like, I mean...
Well, here's the thing. I didn't give a shit you guys were laughing at me.
She's got a giant fan base on Parlor, which should really tell you all you need to know about this person.
You have spent too much time on Parlor.
I have, and I still am, and I posted a wonderful new meme over there today, and it's not liked at all. They aren't fans of what I'm doing.
I'm amazed you haven't been thrown out yet.
You know, I'm gonna have my gold badge this week. So like it's going in the other direction. Like they gave me the red badge, now I'm getting the gold badge, and I'm gonna get the white badge too. I only surprisingly I've only gotten one death threat today, and I'm feeling like they're slacking a little.
Yeah, let's say that's low for you.
Right? Yeah, you know, I mean from that group. I've had a few other threats on other platforms, but like that's just life at this point. I'm kind of I don't know, used to that.
Oh yeah, no, I love the threats I get from the creepers, from the con creepers.
Oh wow, yeah, you must there must be a lot of pushback. I remember hearing when Rick first started this stuff that one of the people that was getting named in all of this started coming at like the project and at Rick and others involved.
There have been a few actually over the time. It's like whenever somebody finds out they're on that page, it's like they're gonna try and do something about it. They got to try and save face, even though they have no leg to stand on.
Creepers.
Now I remember I had somebody message me through FetLife actually. I guess he thought that wouldn't be something that I could screenshot.
Okay.
Because this guy, again, Dylan, this
Yeah.
guy was somebody who, I hate having to say this, but he's smart at what he does. He's smart at being a predator. He knows when to say things and when not to say things to not get caught.
I mean, there are PhD serial killers. Like, I mean,
Yes.
being super intelligent does not preclude you from being a complete piece of shit.
Oh no, I just hate giving him any credit.
Oh,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
I hate saying anything complimentary about him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he just straight up threatened me. He tried to say like what bus I take it every day,
Like,
which he was wrong. Which he was wrong, by the way, and it was funny. I was just laughing because I went to somebody. I'm like, what is he trying to say here? And because I had people that kept talking to him, because the same reason why I've lost so many friends on Facebook for not deleting people they see as creepers.
Yep.
And the way I see it is, why delete them? Because then you lose a source of information.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to monitor these people. I get it. I don't know. When I get threats like that, I always just kind of laugh. I got my first actual real threat like that was attempting to scare me on Parler was someone posting addresses, phone numbers of like me, family members, everything else, and it was like my stepdad's place down in Texas and my place up here and my real phone number. But like all of that data is super public and easy to find. Like my social security number and bank account login details were leaked once. Like nothing has ever affected me from this.
Yeah.
Like, so I just laughed at him and said, what's that about? And he said, you should stop posting. And I'm like, no, you should come over for dinner. and we just went back and forth like 4 or 5 times, and he kept threatening, and I was like, you aren't going to scare me in any way, dude. Like I have a very broken sense of self-preservation. So like even if it was like a real valid threat, I probably would say the same thing, because I don't really process that way. I'm not going to get scared of you.
Oh yeah.
You
no,
know?
I've been like that before, where it's like at a convention, I would be slightly intoxicated, we'll say, and I find out that one of these creepers are there, and I'm like, all right, cool. They hate me. They absolutely despise me. I'm gonna go find them and just be there and just be in front of them, be around them the entire time until they punch me. Because once they punch me, then I can get them thrown out. Nice. And at that point, I'm drunk, so I'm not gonna feel it anyway.
Right, like that's the perfect time.
Yeah.
Now the question is,
I mean, I'm a little brother. I can take a punch anyway.
Right, but now the real question is, did you accomplish your goal?
Did not find him, unfortunately.
Sons of bitches.
And it's funny because my wife sent somebody be like, hey, watch over him. Like, sent somebody after me too.
Nice. Don't let him get killed. You know.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for the follow there, Binger Galax. I think I said that right. some of these names very hard to pronounce. Yeah. So I don't know. So you brought up Tulsi Gabbard as the person you wanted to vote for, and I actually had a lot of other friends who were saying the same thing. But like, I never understood how people got there, other than like the policies that she talked about publicly. But her voting record is basically Republican, and also she apologized for Assad using chemical weapons.
So here's the thing:
Like,
the whole how you're saying how her voting record was Republican was actually the reason why I wanted her, was because of the fact of, now I know, hold on,
yeah, I'm gonna let you get there.
yeah, because between her more moderate, I think that's the right word for this, her more middle ground
Centrist
thoughts, yes, centrist, and her military service, I figured, okay, who better to take down Trump than somebody who could pull from the Republican side, that can pull from the Republican vote. That was my main thought process.
She would have gotten a lot of QAnon support, which.
Listen, at the end of the day, a vote's a vote, though.
Oh, I understand. I mean, I voted for someone I absolutely loathe. I'm not a Joe Biden fan in any way.
So,
that man is horrible.
At the end of the day, for the primary, I didn't even vote for her. Because at that point, by the time it got to the Massachusetts primary, she was already
she was already out. Yeah. Plus, I mean, in Massachusetts, like, any vote
my vote
against
is
the
irrelevant.
Party line, just like, if everyone I had ever met in Massachusetts voted for the Republican, the DNC's party line candidate who they want would still win in a landslide here. Like, there's it's hard, man. This place like loves the Democratic Party.
And that's why I went for Bernie in the primary, and then just went with one of the Green. I think I went Green Party for presidential because, fuck it, we live in Massachusetts. My vote's irrelevant.
I mean, I hate that you say that, but I completely understand that, like, in this state, there's no beating the party line of the DNC. Like, it's just going to hold.
Exactly.
It's just how it is. But no, I understand the argument.
Reminds me of a con story I have.
Yeah.
So one year at another anime con, this guy, it's up in the air on if he was stalking an ex-girlfriend or just the fact that it was a very, very small venue. So they ran into each other many times.
Yep.
But after, this person was somebody I knew. So after finding the ex-girlfriend, who I also knew, and calming her down, another one of my friends went into the rave and popped this dude twice in the face. And I then spent the next half hour talking to security, or talking to the con people, being like, yeah, you just got to get him out of here. It'll just be a lot easier if you just get him out of here. While talking to him, saying, no, you don't want to tell the cops anything. It's fine. Just let it go. And then telling the cops, no, you don't want to arrest this girl. It's fine. He's not going to press charges. Playing every side there while hammered.
Well, I mean, that's the best way to really deal with cops, is while hammered, obviously. Because when they tase you and whatnot, it won't hurt as bad. It
was just funny, though, that it's like I've had to, way too many times at conventions, have to go from completely trashed to, okay, I can talk to a cop. What do we need?
Human beings suck. Like, we can't have cons without a Project Sauron having to grow up and exist. Like, Come on, people. Stop being shit. Seriously.
Well, that's always been one of the main problems, is just the fact that it's all been, like, through word of mouth. Like, I used to talk about this dude, like, oh yeah, this guy with the fishnets, and I would hear people behind me, like, I remember being on a bus once, like, oh, you mean this guy? It's like, yeah, this guy. It's like, everybody hears about these people, but it never gets, like, collected in one place. I mean, hell, we have, yeah, he's in the chat, if you notice that.
Yeah. Rick is in the chat. For everyone in chat here, Rick Glass in the chat is actually the guy who maintains Project Sauron there. How's it going, Rick? All that. So if anyone does, know of anyone who needs to go on the list, when you contact that place, you're probably talking with this guy. I have known Rick as long as I've known AJ. We met the same way. He was a little rowdier back then. You know,
That's a nice way of putting it.
little rowdier. Yeah. I don't know. I am starting to fade here. Getting late in the night.
Yeah.
Um, what does chat think about things? What does chat want to know? Does chat have any questions for me, for AJ, about cons, about anything, about young Republicans? I don't know. Whatever you want to know about. You know, you are right. They can't help themselves. They're creeps. But, like, at the same time, you know, you don't want to excuse their behavior, but I understand.
No,
It's
not
like
at
the
all.
same argument I use with haters. Like, that's what they do. That's who they are. It's built in. Like, but at the same time, get rid of them. Like, you know? Like, definitely.
Yeah, it's like we've gone to conventions with like, here's all the information, here's all the things they've done. They're like, yeah, sure, we'll ban him. No, we won't. They don't.
No,